You're tuned in to The Andrew Lawton Show.
We are in the midst of a new year, but of course, some things never change. One of those is government waste. Yes, it's the gift that keeps on giving, if by gift you mean debt that keeps on amassing. There was a new report from our friends at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation this morning, and this report found that over the last decade, like this is a 10-year period, one of the government's great pastimes has been like giving its own employees awards and just like patting themselves on the back through the public service awards. Now, I didn't know that public servants needed awards. I didn't know they had earned awards. In fact, if you look at a report last year from the Parliamentary Budget Officer, it found that federal departments fell short of meeting half of their performance targets. So I don't know what awards they're given. This is not necessarily like the big Golden Globes and the Oscars and all of that, but still, they've spent $500,000 over the last decade. Most of that was just on like custom trophies, but then there's also a hefty, fat catering bill that gets thrown in through that as well. So this has just been one aspect of this when you just see a great disconnect between the way government deals with things and the way people in the real world tend to deal with them. Now, I don't know if you've I no judgment. If you in the last 10 years have been giving yourself awards and you've been hosting these galas to give yourself the awards and you've been getting these fancy trophies to remind you of just how incredible you were, maybe that is what flies for you. Again, I don't want to be too judgmental a person here, but we want to talk about this in a bit more depth here. So we have joining us our Alberta correspondent, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation's Alberta Director, Kris Sims. Oh, apparently Kris has turned off her camera, so I don't know if we are going to get a Kris appearance in a moment. We'll get Kris in just a second here, but let me just read through some of the greatest hits from this here. This is, I should be precise, $476,000. That's what taxpayers had to spend. Now, this is from 2012 to 2022. But the hilarious thing is they launched this award in 2005 with 14 award categories to recognize government employees who demonstrated excellence in achieving results. So excellence in achieving results for Canadians. So if you've been feeling like you've been really getting results from your public servants, Kris Sims from the CTF, we have her at long last. Kris, good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Sorry, I always get a gremlin just before I go on your show. My camera clicks off. So yeah, this was great work that was done by my friend and colleague, Ryan Thorpe. He is our resident investigative journalist. A lot of folks may not know this, but we actually have a full-time investigative journalist paid on staff at the Taxpayers Federation. We did this, Andrew, because as you know, investigative journalists are an endangered species now. And so we created this little terrarium for him, and he now lives under his little heat lamp in Ottawa. I think he lives down the street from Franco Terrazzano. And Ryan dug up these great ATIP documents that showed that not only, Andrew, are they doing this Public Service Excellence Awards, which started under Prime Minister Paul Martin, by the way, 10 years ago, but they also do this big catering gala. They actually had duck prosciutto. Like, I didn't know that you could do that. I thought prosciutto was like pork. Like, I'm totally showing my roots here. But apparently, like, it must just be you can turn...
No duck prosciutto in Lethbridge, is there?
No, at least not...
So I did, hang on this. I did an artist rendering of the menu before the show started. I used... There's this program called Midjourney, which is like a photo-generating AI. And I basically plugged in the government's catering menu here so I could get a sense of what these bureaucrats were getting. Sean, can you put the graphic up? There we go. So this is charcuterie featuring cured Arctic char and duck prosciutto. I didn't ask the AI engine to do the champagne in the background. It just kind of got the sense on its own that the Government of Canada employees were probably having champagne. But yeah, that is the AI, pretty good actually, AI-generated government charcuterie platter. I think the Arctic char is the pink stuff on the left, and I think the duck prosciutto is the stuff in the middle just to the left of the green olives. But like I said, I haven't seen duck prosciutto, so I don't know for sure.
Me neither. Well, maybe when you go over to the WEF forum, they'll throw some for you over the wall. They're not letting you in, but maybe they'll send you a doggy bag. This is what's so annoying, okay? Is that you'll have the government say something like, "Oh, well, we've been fiscally responsible for the past 10 years or whatever." And then the moment you tell them, "Hey, you guys are wasting a lot of money," they get all huffy. And they're like, "Well, what do you want to cancel first? Education for children or healthcare for old people?" It's like, well, maybe don't throw yourself an awards gala for bureaucrats. Maybe don't hand out antique gold trophies on glass marble bases. Just stop doing that. Don't hire a photographer. Don't literally roll out a red carpet for yourselves. This is all taxpayers' money. We have to stress this, okay? We know there are some corporations, if you're a big company, you do give out awards for a job well done. But you all chip in over the year. Like, people donate their pay to this fund, and they'll have like a big dinner, and then they'll recognize people, and you'll get some little crystal thing and you keep it on your shelf. No. This is not coming from their own little fund. This is taxpayer funded awards galas here.
I misunderstood. I thought the red carpet was just like a gender reveal for the debt. Like we roll it out and it's like, oh, we're in the red today.
That's such a good idea. We should do that next time with the debt clock.
Well, it's always, you don't even need to buy a black carpet. It's always red every year. That's the reality of it here.
That's it. We're going to put that with the debt clock. Next time we do a debt clock tour, we're just going to roll it out, and that's going to be the reveal. That's a brilliant idea.
I'm looking at this too, and they might as well make all the trophies snowflakes, because this is really just the snowflake award thing here, where you've not even done your job well, but we're going to give you an award for not doing it because you didn't do it better than anyone else didn't do it in the company.
Yeah, it's not only awards to bureaucrats, it's participation awards to bureaucrats that we're handing. Like, every now and then there's a moment that happens in our current crazy, wacky culture, and this is one of them. This is just peak woke silliness of handing out a participation trophy to a bureaucrat at taxpayers' expense while eating duck prosciutto.
I just realized when I did the AI photo, I forgot to put in the pork terrine.
Right.
So there was also a pork. We didn't do the AI. We'll have to bill another $10,000 and put.
Is that a paste or is that a soup?
A pork terrine? Yeah, it's like a pate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but a pork pate. So they took the pork out of the prosciutto and instead put it into the terrine when the terrine should have been duck. They're going all Freaky Friday here. This is all that Sean and I are going to be eating next week in Davos.
This reminds me of, speaking of Davos, which you have to fly to, I assume. You're not gonna parasail over.
No, we're not doing like the Greta Thunberg transatlantic sailboat or anything.
So you'd be there in a month. So maybe.
Oh, we missed it. Time to go back.
And in January. No, you die. Yeah. Don't try to do that. This reminds me of the in-flight service that the Governor General had, right? We all had to look up what beef carpaccio was, but she was eating it. I knew what beef Wellington was from Bugs Bunny, but I had to look up what beef carpaccio was, but we all paid for it. This is the thing, folks. There's literally, no pun intended, so much fat to trim here that they blew almost $500,000 on a public service trophy ceremony over the past decade. Harper government included, I will point out. This sort of nonsense was going on under the Harper government's nose too.
There was also one, I looked up one of the documents, this was in 2021, where they even spent, I think it was like $37,000 on a virtual event. So they didn't even have to all be in the same room, and it still cost them $15,000 for trophies, $20,000 to develop an online platform, because apparently $200 for a Zoom subscription was too complicated, and a $2,000 speech writer. So even your crappy human resources award show, you can't even just write the speech on the back of a napkin like every other crappy boss does. You hired a speech writer.
Right. Or you can't even get one of your millions of middle managers who are keyboard warriors at the best of times to write a speech on their own time. No, you had to contract that out to someone else.
We should ATIP the speech. I want to find out what speech we got for $2,000.
That's a really good idea.
If you're listening, Ryan Thorpe, I want to get the speech.
He wants the speech. Okay, I will mention that to Ryan. And just to put a poetic note on this, okay? The Taxpayers Federation, this is definitely going to be in the running for a Teddy Waste Award. We do our own awards show, okay, that the foundation and the organization pays for itself. It gets tons of media coverage, and it's announcing government waste. We hand out trophies for that, okay? There's a big gala, but we keep the trophies. Andrew, I got one of these trophies once that I built myself. Do you remember that show Babe with the pig?
Oh yeah, Babe the Pig, yeah.
So I found
Babe the Pig is actually now the pork terrine that the bureaucrats are being served. 2023 wasn't good to him.
That's just too much art. That's perfect. I love it. It doesn't have a government grant attached to it. That's good. I took a Babe piggy bank from the thrift store I found, and I spray bombed it gold, and I glued it to some wood. Like, I think it cost $4. Like,
And that was the prototype. That was the original Teddy.
Sure, and it's right behind me here in my office. Like, it's back there, like, next to the Millennium Falcon. Like, it's just pretty good stuff. It's pretty good stuff. And so this is what we're saying. We're not saying you can't have fun. We're not saying you can't award people for truly doing a good job. No participation trophies allowed. But you have to realize that real people are paying for this. Okay? Taxpayers are strapped. They can't afford most normal things. And the idea of you guys handing each other awards on a red carpet while eating fancy duck and gold trophies being handed out, the optics of this are terrible, and they need to stop it. Like, they don't need to reduce it. They need to stop doing this.
One other story you flagged just before we went on air here. What's this about a federal plastics registry?
Yeah, this is a big thing. I think it's going to be a big thing. It could turn into nothing where they get spooked and they run away from it, like they did when they floated their idea of a pickup truck tax, which was a real thing, and it was in a government report. I will stand by that. And then they ran away from it, saying, "Oh, no, nothing to see here. You caught my hand in the cookie jar." So now the federal government is putting out word, basically saying, we want to get feedback from people about having a plastics registry. So what this looks and smells like is, you might remember years back, groups like the OECD and the United Nations put out an idea of EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. What that means in normal people talk is that a pizza place or a bulk barn, for example, would be responsible for every bit of packaging that leaves their store forever. So they're the ones that then need to track it. And as a consumer, you would need to pay an extra fee for using a pizza box. So this is what this sounds like. Our alarm comes from the fact that the government is terrible at most things. Like, awful. They couldn't organize a 2-car parade. Okay? Their last registry of the long gun registry was a disaster. It didn't make anybody safer, and it ballooned to, I think, close to $2 billion in 1990s money. That's a ton of money wasted. Mm-hmm. The idea that they're going to start a plastics registry for what? Like your little olive containers? Does that include the wrap that goes around your meat? Like toys? Like, what are they talking about? This just reeks of boondoggle, and we wanted to flag it for people because they squeaked it out late in the day on December 29th. Like in the middle of the big fog that people are usually in between Christmas and New Year's. So, big flag. Take a look at just look at the government website. Plastics registration.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's insane, and it's going to be bureaucratic, regulatory, red tape, burdensome, all of that. When I first saw the plastics registry, I was concerned that, like, Kim Kardashian would have to cancel her upcoming Canadian tour unless
she no longer exists.
Yeah, she couldn't register with the government in time to do the plastics registry. So there we go. But it's insane. And the serious point of all of this is that this is the kind of thing that forces companies to say, I'm just not going to do business here.
Yeah, exactly. I had tons of conversations with independent restaurant operators. It was heartbreaking during the lockdown in British Columbia, where they were contacting me because they were also cracking down in Vancouver on single-use items. And there was I remember this poor guy, he's been running his restaurant for the last 5 years leading up to the lockdowns. Then the lockdowns hit, and here he was trying desperately to stay afloat and was selling food out the door, or a takeaway, as they would call it in the UK. And then he was nailed with, I think his costs of his containers for food, I think they quadrupled out from under him because of the new regulations that were being put in, but I think it was by the city itself. Imagine that now at a federal level. And keep in mind, Vancouver was going full crazy. They were going to try to start forcing people to all share a communal pool of sippy cups in order to ban single-use coffee cups. Like, I'm not kidding. Everybody in Vancouver would have had to share this communal pool of shared cups. And so that's where these ideas come from, or places like that. And this could be nothing. This could turn into nothing. They could be floating it as a trial balloon and it could disappear and you'll never hear about it again. I would love to think that it could be used as like a return it recycling depot thing, which most people are used to doing with their cans and bottles, but not lately. Lately, the last 10 years, especially the federal government, give them a chance and the cost will quadruple and it also won't work. So this is where we're really trying to flag this for people.
All right, Kris Sims, the Alberta director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I know we'll be doing the show from Davos next week, but we'll still have you on in the Monday slot here. Thank you so much, Kris.
All right, be careful over there.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.